what it was really like to live on the Oregon Trail. Imagine a road that is not a road at all, not a paved ribbon of asphalt, not a graded dirt track, but a 2,170-mile-long scar carved into the heart of a continent. Parallel ruts churned by 500,000 wheels stretching from the bustling, jumping-off towns along the Missouri River to the promised green valleys of Oregon. This was the Oregon Trail, and for the pioneers who walked it between the 1840s and the 1860s, it was the most harrowing, audacious, and life-altering journey in American history. Forget the romanticized image of pioneers riding comfortably in their covered wagons. The truth is, astonishingly, that almost everyone walked. The wagons, often modified farm wagons, not the gigantic, legendary Conestogas, were not carriages for riding. They were fragile, vital cargo containers. If a family of 4 or 5 rode inside, the oxen would quickly be exhausted and die, leaving the family stranded in the vast, unforgiving plains. So men, women, and children, from toddlers to the elderly, walked every day for 4 to 6 months. They walked in the dust, in the mud, in the searing sun, and through sudden hail, averaging 15 miles a day, a half marathon every single day for nearly half a year. The journey began not with a grand adventure, but with meticulous, high-stakes packing. Every family was limited to about 2,000 pounds of supplies. 90% of that weight was food. Not just a few weeks' worth, but enough to sustain them for 120 to 180 days. This meant hundreds of pounds of flour, bacon, coffee, sugar, and dried beans. Tools and clothing got the leftover space. There was no room for Grandma's mahogany dresser or the heirloom china. When the trail turned rough and an ox collapsed from exhaustion, the decision was brutal: lighten the load or lose the animal. The trail quickly became littered with discarded possessions: stoves, tables, heavy books, and even barrels of precious food. These abandoned items were so common they earned a grim, ironic nickname, Leaverites, meaning you had to leave her right here.
The greatest fear wasn't a skirmish with Native Americans, which was statistically rare, but an invisible, swift killer: cholera. In the early 1850s, the trail became a mass graveyard. A person could be perfectly healthy at breakfast, develop a severe fever by noon, and be dead by nightfall. It was a terrifying, mysterious ailment that spread like wildfire in the overcrowded camps and from contaminated water sources. Because burials had to be quick to prevent the disease from claiming more lives, and because the train could not stop, graves were often shallow, anonymous, and hastily marked, if at all. One estimate suggests that at least 20,000 people, 1 out of every 10 emigrants, perished on the overland trails, making the 2,170-mile road the longest and most densely populated cemetery in the United States. Yet, amidst the suffering, an unexpected civilization emerged. Wagon trains were highly organized, miniature republics governed by elected captains, often complete with written constitutions. They held evening courts to settle disputes, a stolen axe, a stray ox, and imposed real penalties. Daily life was a monotonous grind broken by terrifying spectacle. Imagine crossing the Platte River, a mile wide and deceptively fast, where wagons would often overturn, drowning people and animals. Imagine the sudden, earth-shaking rumble of a herd of 30 million buffalo, a black sea stretching to the horizon, a sight that simultaneously offered the promise of fresh meat and the mortal terror of a stampede. The trail tested women in ways they never imagined. Diaries revealed that while men worried about the animals and the road, women were the bedrock of domestic continuity. They cooked over open fires fueled by buffalo chips, dried buffalo dung, which was surprisingly clean burning and often the only available fuel, washed clothes in scarce water, cared for the sick, and often walked more miles than the men, who frequently rode the draft animals. They were the ones who saw the elephant, a common 19th century phrase meaning to experience the incredible, often terrible, truth of a legend. They saw the elephant, and they kept walking.
By the time the pioneers reached landmarks like Chimney Rock, Independence Rock, and the crucial South Pass, a massive, gentle slope through the formidable Rockies, so easy to traverse they barely noticed they had crossed the Continental Divide, they were utterly transformed. The soft, green settlers who started in Missouri were now hardened, trail-scarred pioneers. They had faced thirst in the scorching sagebrush desert, blizzards in the mountains, the gnawing hunger of insufficient food, and the grim knowledge that a sudden slip, a broken axle, or a drop of polluted water could spell the end. The final descent into the Willamette Valley was often the most dangerous, the trail becoming a treacherous series of cliffs and gorges. But once they arrived, they had achieved something epic, paving the way for the settlement of the American West. The Oregon Trail was not just a route, it was a grueling crucible that forged a new kind of American spirit, resourceful, resilient, and utterly unwilling to turn back. They set out for a better life, and in doing so, laid down a legacy written in the deep ruts of a vanishing wilderness. The journey was a constant struggle for survival and a testament to human endurance, with the vast majority of pioneers walking the 2,170 miles. Disease, particularly cholera, was the primary killer, claiming 1 in 10 travelers. The trail was a massive lesson in ruthless efficiency, demanding that almost everything be sacrificed to save the one thing that mattered, the chance at a new life.